Okay, Colossians chapter 2. Does Colossians chapter 2 say that the Torah, the law of God, was nailed to the cross, paid for, and done away with? Is that what it says? Because it seems like all of you guys keep posting. I can't count the amount of times that someone has commented on my videos, Colossians chapter 2, Colossians chapter 2. It's all about Colossians chapter 2. You got to look at Colossians chapter 2. The Torah was nailed to the cross. It was done away with. Okay, let's look at it. Colossians chapter 2. Let's start in verse 8 and actually get context to this. Beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Christ. Wait a minute. Is that what the Torah is? Is the Torah empty deceit? Is it philosophy? Is it the tradition of men? No. Is the Torah the basic principles of the world? No. Okay. Verse 20. Therefore, if you died with Christ from the Torah, well, wait, that's not what it says. If you died with Christ from the basic principles of the world, why, as though living in the world, do you subject yourselves to regulations? It doesn't say the Torah. It's not talking about the Torah. It's talking about the basic principles of the world. These regulations: do not touch, do not taste, do not handle. The principles of the world, of self-imposed religion, which all concern things which pertain to the using according to the commandments and doctrines of men, not the commandments and doctrines of God. So stop saying that this passage is talking about the Torah. It's not talking about the Torah. It's talking about the commandments and doctrines, traditions, and philosophies of men in self-imposed religion. The next verse: these things indeed have an appearance of wisdom in self-imposed religion and false humility and neglecting in the body, but are of no value against the indulgence of the flesh. So these things that were nailed to they have an appearance of wisdom in self-imposed religion and false humility. That's not what God says that the Torah was. And if you the problem is, preachers are preaching this, people are teaching this, and there's no accountability in Christianity. That's the problem today. You sit there, you keep your mouth shut, and you don't say anything. You just sit there and be programmed like a TV. When was the last time you were sitting in church and someone say, wait, whoa, this doesn't lie. Okay, Pastor, I got a question. When was the last time that happened? You can't do that. That's the problem. There's no accountability. And if people would actually do what even Paul says you are to do, which is to test everything. Every preacher, every teacher, the apostles, the writings of the New Testament, test everything against the Old Testament scripture, like the noble Bereans in Acts chapter 11, and see whether or not these things line up. And if you would actually do that, there wouldn't be so much deception in Christianity. There wouldn't be over 40,000 denominations. Don't you see there's a problem with that? 40,000 denominations? It's crazy. And if you really want to know what this passage is talking about, in verse 14, it says, having wiped out the handwriting of requirements that was against us, which was contrary to us, and he has taken it out of the way, having nailed it to the cross. What is he talking about? What is the handwriting of requirements or ordinances that was against us? It's really not that difficult. Well, I mean, it's impossible to understand if you don't read the first half of the book, which people aren't doing. But just sit down at a Bible program and type in handwriting. See what you come up with. There's one passage And that one passage is the key to understanding this entire thing, this whole chapter, the whole story. And I'll give you the chapter. It's Numbers chapter 5. But I'm not going to go through and read the whole thing for you. You go to Numbers chapter 5, read it, and it will blow your mind. Your mind will literally be blown. All of the story of Christ and the cross and the garden, and what is this cup? What is the bitter thing that he didn't want to drink? It's not the Torah. That's not what it is. Go read Numbers chapter 5, and you'll see what the handwriting was. The accusations against sin that was actually nailed to the cross. He didn't do away with the definition of what sin is, which is the Torah. He didn't do that. He did away with the penalty, the handwriting of ordinances. That was the cup that he drank on that fateful day. We got to get that right. But people interject and introduce into the passage the Torah. This is the Torah. This is the Torah. It's more of that Jedi mind stuff. And so when you get to verse 16 and 17, which says, let no man judge you in food or drink in regard of a festival, a new moon, or Sabbath, people, they're already primed. The pump is primed. The brainwashing has already taken place. And so, okay, well, let's just do away from it. That's not what it's saying. It's a positive command. It's saying, look, all these things of your faith and what you do, what you believe, how you live it out, you can take persecution, you can take these things and, turn the other cheek, all of this sort of thing. But God is saying, when it comes to these 4 things, you don't keep your mouth shut. You have my permission to stand up and stand against this and give a reason for the faith that lies within you. And do not let any man judge you in concern of these things. And ironically, these are the things, the short little list that Christianity has done away with. Let no one judge you in food or in drink or in regard of a festival, the new moon or the Sabbaths, which are a shadow of things yet to come, but the substance is of Christ. Let no man cheat you of your reward. These commands are awesome. They're full of meaning. They're full of light. They're full of wisdom. But when you do away with them, that's all gone. It says our shadow of things yet to come, but the substance is of Christ. When was this written? This was written like 30 years after Jesus ascended into heaven. So according to modern day Christianity, it should say these things were a shadow of that which already came. But that's not what it says. And let me give you proof to that. Let's look at Paul's own words, okay? 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Listen to this. I will leave you with this. Talking about purging out the leaven that is in us, chapter 5 of 1 Corinthians and verse number 7. For indeed Christ, Messiah, our Passover, was sacrificed for us. That happened in the past. He did it. He fulfilled that part. So what does Paul say? It's done away with? No. Christ was sacrificed for us. Next words. Therefore, let us keep the feast. The feast of Passover. Not with the old leaven of wickedness and malice, that leaven of sin that's in us, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Paul says Christ was crucified for all of us. He was the Passover lamb. It happened. Therefore, what should be our response? Let us continue to keep the feast of Passover. That's what Paul said, as you guys say, to Christianity, to the church. Let us continue to keep the feast. The ones that he fulfilled, the spring feast, like Passover, and the other, or the fall feast, because that's a shadow of what is yet to come at his second coming. So that's my challenge today.